Business travel program filled with unexpected twists and turns? CLC offers flexible reservations and cancellations without a monthly fee, plus travel policy controls, 24/7 traveler support, and even centralized billing and insights, all across a large network of pre-negotiated hotels with best price guarantees. Travelers can book last-minute reservations on the go with the mobile app, or by just walking in with a CLC card. CLC Lodging. Workforce travel that just works. Visit clclodging.com to sign up for free.
Today on CityCast Houston, janitors in Houston do so much for our city to help keep things clean. But as important as their role is in our society, many of them have been forced to pick up extra jobs just to eat, pay rent, and survive month to month. That's why over 3,000 of the city's janitors are saying enough is enough. Service Employees International Union's president, Elsa Flores, is here to tell us more about why a janitor strike might be on the horizon. And before we start today's episode, we're thinking about everyone impacted by last week's storm. Check out today's Hey Houston for info on how to get fallen trees off your property, and I've also linked resources for disaster recovery from the city of Houston in our show notes. We'll also have a breakdown of everything that's happened since the storm on tomorrow's episode. It's Monday, May 20th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Elsa, welcome into CityCast Houston. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Raheel. It's so nice to see you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what you're doing and what Service Employees International Union is doing. So first and foremost, tell our listeners, what is SEIU?
Well, SEIU itself is an international union. We have members that we represent in the healthcare industry, what we call property or service industry, as well as the public sector. We're in the United States, Puerto Rico, and Canada. Over 1 million members in all those cities. But specifically here in Houston, I would say we represent workers in the service industry. And we are what we call SEIU Texas.
So within the service industry, what jobs are we talking about?
So in the city of Houston, we represent over 3,000 janitors.
Yeah.
The ones that we're talking about is people who clean buildings that are commercial buildings here in the city. We also represent airport workers who are doing cabin cleaning, wheelchair attendants, baggage claims, which is, something new. We have them here in Houston and in Dallas, as well as workers who do the setups and the cleaning at the George R. Brown Convention Center in the city of Houston. And we have some food service workers at Texas Southern University. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the type of workforce that we have. I would say majority of the workforce is immigrant, Black, brown workers from the city of Houston who provide a lot of the work.
Yeah, such an important part of our community, such an important crew helping with so many different things around the city. So before we talk about everything that's happening, I want to know, how did you get involved with SEIU?
Oh, wow. Well, originally, I didn't see myself working in labor. I actually went to school and grew up here in Houston and worked in nonprofits for a long time. So I did definitely see myself as trying to be helpful and helping the community and helping people, but saw myself doing more direct work, like social work, if you would say. But then I got married, moved to California, and continued to do that work. And I found that a lot of the people that I was seeing them in homeless shelters because, literally they would live from paycheck to paycheck. If they lose the job today, literally next month they couldn't afford to pay for the rent, and they would end up homeless in shelters where I had to work with them. And I hated it because I felt like by then they were already in the hole. And a friend of mine told me about, labor and how they worked and advocated to make sure people could stay in a job and they could actually get paid better. I went into that and stayed in it since, working with a lot of different type of workers in the hopes that they don't end up in this situation where they are homeless.
That's amazing. That's beautiful that you are here helping and fighting for all the people that need help. So that is so cool. Okay, Elsa, tell me about these headlines that I'm seeing. There's an upcoming strike if there's not a new deal that's reached. And we've talked about it on the show a little bit based on the stories that we've seen in the Houston Chronicle. But can you give us a full breakdown on what exactly is happening?
Well, you're hearing right now specifically about our Houston janitors, which, if you've Googled Houston janitors, you're probably going to see that this has been a very long-term fight. Houston janitors organized here in the city of Houston back in 2006. They organized their union. They fought for the union, to the point where they literally had to go on strike on that first year just to get a contract. Workers at that time were making minimum wage, I think an average of about $20 a day, working 4 hours a day, in the majority were immigrants, right? So no one thought that these workers would ever be able to get a union, that they will ever be able to organize, a different case in the sense of like even being able to get an increase in healthcare out of it, right? But they did. And ever since they did that, every 4 years or so, they have an opportunity to come back, sit across the table from management and say, now I want to improve this thing. But remember, they started from so far behind, from minimum wage, making minimum wage for years. So while they have every 4 years sat at the table to try to get improvements, they're still so far behind from other cities, right? Workers at the city of Houston right now are making anywhere from $11.25 an hour, and they could get up to $13 an hour, depending on how long they've been there, whether they're working as what they call day porter or full-time workers. Those are the ones that are there during the day, or if they're working at night, right? So the conditions can be different depending on what that is. And so this year, workers said, look, we can't continue to be at that rate. Post-pandemic, things got even harder than they were before. They made it very clear to the key contractors that they wanted something better. They want to be able to have a wage where they can take care of their family with the dignity and the respect that they deserve, right? They wanted to make sure that they actually have enough hours on that job so that they can qualify for benefits. A lot of them are being left out of their ability to get health care because if you don't have enough hours, you don't qualify for that. And what we found is that instead of the industry moving to the direction where you're giving them more hours, there's an incentive to cut hours so that they don't have to help pay for that health care, right? So many workers are still only doing 4 hours, 5 hours at the most. And that causes them to have to get 2 or sometimes 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So the priorities have been very clear with the contractors. We want, better pay, more hours, and access to health care and additional benefits.
So currently, are members who are working full-time receiving benefits right now?
Yes, they have access to health care. They pay a small, a portion of it, 10% of the cost, and the company will pay for the rest. That's great. That's a good thing. But we want more people to have access to that.
Yeah.
And currently, like I said, if we keep it a part-time market, that does not make this the primary job that allows them to have healthcare for themselves. And right now they only have healthcare for them. So we're not even asking them to include their families at this point. This is just healthcare for the workers that are doing the day-to-day work. This last Saturday, we had an opportunity to meet with the main contractors and felt negotiations weren't moving in the right direction. Contractors came back to tell us, they were not willing to do better than what they've done in the past, which is pennies, right? Pennies to move these workers. Even though in other cities who've managed to already settle contracts, right? Like Detroit, like California, like Chicago, like Pittsburgh, they've done, way better. They've been able to increase salaries. They've even put money towards pensions and retirement, healthcare. But in Houston, they're saying we can't do that. And the worst part is they're telling us it is the building owners who are telling them or saying, that they're not willing to do what they've done in other cities. And so, frankly, workers felt insulted by that. Why should they take less? Why do they deserve less? Why can't they take care of their families with the dignity and the respect that they deserve for an honest day's work? And authorized us, the negotiations team, to call on a strike if it's necessary, to do whatever it takes, right? They understand that they had to do that in the past. It's not an easy thing for them to do. It's a sacrifice. But they get that in order to make change, sometimes you do have to sacrifice. And they want change in the city of Houston. They're not willing to continue to accept that the owners just don't want to do better or that things are different in Houston.
Before we move forward, define the owners. Who are these management teams? Is it buildings, the city? Who are they?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So in the city of Houston, we have some major national owners, right? That means that they're also in Chicago, they're also in New York, they're in California and everywhere else. And those are like the companies like Brookfield, it's a major owner. Heinz, everybody knows Heinz. It's a major owner. We have another one that has quite a lot of properties here. It's called Lincoln Properties. Those are major owners. There's some smaller owners that maybe are not, I call them smaller, but they're only Houston based. But frankly, the market is driven by those major owners who, have the most beautiful buildings in the city, right? And are getting cleaned by our members. And they also have the same contractors in other cities. So, there's nothing different except it's Houston.
Yeah, so why is that, right? It sounds like they have negotiated before. They are giving these benefits to other cities or workers in other cities. Why Houston? Why aren't we getting those same benefits for our community?
We are not hearing from them a justifiable reason about why not. Houston is the fourth largest city in the United States, right? We can't say that Houston doesn't have the money. People are going to say, well, the market is bad post-pandemic. The rental rates are different. Look, you still have to clean the buildings every day, whether they're empty or not. Those buildings still have to get clean, right? They do still have tenants there. And that means that the workers are still having to do the work. So they should get paid for the work that they do, right? And, honestly, the other cities had the same issues, but they're managing to do something better there. There is no reason except for the fact that they may think that this is something that they can get away with here, right? The majority of the workers, like I said, are women of color doing this work. And honestly, even when you compare them to people that are doing the same kind of work outside of these commercial buildings, they're getting paid better. If you go to the city of Houston right now, the minimum wage for a janitor in the city of Houston who's being subcontracted, it's $15 an hour. At the George R. Brown Convention Center, again, subcontract workers as well, they're getting paid a minimum of $15 an hour. Now you can go to the airport and clean, the airplanes and clean the floors in the airport at the Bush Airport or Hobby, and still there you can get $15 an hour. There is no reason why Brookfield Heinz cannot direct these contractors to say, look, we'll pay you what you need to pay, bring these workers to a decent payable wage, right? There's no reason to leave them behind when you haven't done it in other cities. And frankly, now even, if you go work at the city or at the airport or sometimes even at Amazon, you're going to get better than what you get from these contractors.
Elsa, tell me, what are janitors getting paid in other cities right now?
Most cities now are above $15 an hour. You're talking about 15, 17, sometimes even $20 an hour. As I said, workers here right now are an average of $11.25. Some can get to $13.45, right? But it's not enough. Who can live on that? Cost of rent, I heard this morning, has gone up 20%, right? You can't go buy food anymore. You can't buy the basic things. I'm not talking about meats and this and that. I'm just talking about the basics in your home, without spending over $100. Imagine that. I try to explain to people the difficult choices that people have to make just on the basic things that they have to get every day. But imagine also to have to tell your children that, sorry, I need you to go get a job so you can help pay for the rent and buy the food. I can't afford to have you go to college right now. Right? Those are some difficult decisions that our parents right now having to make. The workers are having to make every day. Many of our janitors now have their children also working as janitors. And sometimes, people who don't live in this industry or do this kind of thing can't picture what that's like, can't understand what that's like. I've heard things like, well, why don't they just go get another job? And my answer to that is, why can't we make this a decent job? Why can't we make this a good paying job, right? Why should the answer be people need to go find another job? Why can't they go to school so that they can go get a better paying job? Well, you live in a cycle of sort of poverty, because how are you going to stop working to go to school when you have to take care of a family? You're just looking to see how you get another job so that you can keep basic things in your home. And I think that's irresponsible. That's shameful that it's still happening at this day and age in a city like Houston.
Do you need to communicate and collaborate from anywhere? Vonage does that. With one streamlined app, you get full features that work on desktop or mobile wherever you go. Join video meetings and calls, respond to messages, and work from home, in the office, or on the road. You can even capture conversations on the go because the Vonage mobile app can integrate with your CRM. Now your small business can communicate like a big enterprise. See more of what Vonage can do for you at Vonage.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, and I'm here with Keith, co-star of my upcoming film, If, only in theaters May 17th. Do you want to tell people the big news? All right, I'll do it. Sign up now and you'll get unlimited for $15 a month and 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan on us. MintMobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 equivalent to $15 per month. Unlimited over 40 gigabytes per month. Face lower speeds. Videos at 480p. Active Mint customers by 531.24 get 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan. Auto renews after 6 months. Offer ends May 31st, 2024. Separate Paramount Plus registration required. Terms and conditions apply if rated PG.
I want to talk about the corporations that you're negotiating with, right? And I understand. Look, you mentioned inflation has been crazy. Rent has gone up. I saw that buying groceries is even more expensive now, right, than compared to a couple of years ago. It seems like every industry right now is struggling with paying employees more. Do you think that's one of the factors why a deal isn't getting done from these corporations?
Not really. I mean, like I said, in other cities, they're doing better. They're able to pay in the other cities. There's no reason why they can't do it here. And I want to be really clear. We negotiate with the contractors. The main three contractors in the city is ABM. There's a company called Pritchard and Velocity. They're at the table with us, right? But it is the owners who drive this market. It is the owners who tell them how much they can pay. They say, we are willing to make the contract with you this much better so that you can then do better with the workers. Contractors, the margin for them in terms of, their profit margin is very small, and they compete against each other for that business. So they're going to try to do the work having to still be able to get a profit. But then at the end of the day, the ones that are going to suffer are the workers, right? Now, if the owners do their part and say, no, we'll pay more, but we want to make sure that these workers get access to healthcare, that you give them enough hours so that they can get access to healthcare, and that you also then pay them a livable wage, then they will do that because they don't feel like they have to compete, right? But we need the owners to then get involved.
Also, we saw last month the firefighters union finally settled their fight after years of going back and forth with the city about their wages. I know this is different, but do you think this could take just as long, or is this something that you could reach a deal with pretty soon?
Well, I don't think it's going to take us years, right? I don't think anybody wants to be in a fight for years here and not have their buildings get cleaned for years. I don't think it's worth it for the owners or the contractors. But what I want to be clear about is these janitors have gone on strike in 2006. They've gone on strike in 2012. And what they're saying to us now is, we are willing to do whatever it takes for us to get a decent contract, for us to get a contract that we can live with for the next 4 years. They understand that this is the opportunity to do that.
What would that mean if they do go on strike this time around? How badly would that impact the services they are providing?
Well, I think that for the tenants, they need to understand that, their trash won't get taken out, that their bathrooms are not going to get cleaned, that their kitchens in their buildings may not get cleaned, or people are not going to be bringing them water or cleaning after each meeting, right? Because the janitors who do that every day won't be there. Let's face it, we still have COVID, we have the flu, we have a lot of other illnesses that are around. It is still very important that we have janitors who are doing that cleaning so people don't get sick every day. And, the buildings are not going to look as nice and clean if the workers are not there. Ultimately, they are the backbone in these buildings to make sure that they look as nice as they look every day.
I know the strike, we've talked about it, that is on the table. We've seen the protests. We've seen workers marching and bringing more awareness to this. What are the next steps now?
Well, like I said, we're willing to do whatever it takes. That includes bargaining, right? Look, no one wants to go on strike. Like I said, it's a hard choice for workers all around. We are going to go to the table and we are open-minded to try to get a reasonable contract, right? Something that both sides can live with. So we go back to the table. I believe it is on the 29th. We are going to bargain as late as it takes on the 29th, and on the 30th, our contract expires on the 31st. If things are moving in the right direction, we may even continue to bargain on the 31st. But if it's midnight on the 31st and we don't have an agreement, then, our members have authorized us to call for a strike if we need it.
Elsa, janitors and other service industry workers, they truly are the backbone of this city. What else can we do as Houstonians, as listeners right now, to support them, to make sure that they are living a high quality life and that they can accomplish the goals that we all want to accomplish, right? What can we do to help?
I would say we are planning to obviously do events in the city as within the next 3 weeks to make sure we bring awareness, right? I think if you're a tenant in one of these buildings, you can send a message to your property manager and to the building owner saying you support these workers, right? The tenants know these workers. They see them every day and they know how hard they work. So I think tenants get support by, just writing a letter to the little property manager and saying, look, these workers deserve to make a livable wage. So that's a huge support to the workers. And, if you have a way to send a message to Brookfield, whether it's through social media, through Facebook, send messages to the building owners like Brookfields, like Hines, like Lincoln Properties, and some of the others saying, janitors in Houston cannot be left behind.
Before I let you go, what would you say to workers out there who may feel like they're being treated unfairly, but they're scared to join a union and speak up because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs? I know that's illegal, but that is still a fear that a lot of people have. What would you tell them?
I would say that, look, you can get fired any day from any job that doesn't have protections from being part of a union, right? You can get fired tomorrow. There's actually a lot more protection once you're public and that you're organizing, because it is illegal for them to try to stop you from doing that. There is power in numbers. If you look across the country right now, workers are tired of barely making it, of always being asked to make sacrifices while, we still have the top 1% continuing to live life like nothing ever happened, right? They went through the pandemic like nothing ever happened in terms of their economy, right? In terms of their ability to be able to take care of themselves and their families. But workers were asked time and time again to make sacrifices. And I think whether you're looking at, the janitors who are taking that step today, or whether you look at healthcare workers like workers in Kaiser who went on strike, or you look at the auto workers who went on strike, the reason they made those gains and the reason they had those victories is because they did it united, right? Because there's power in numbers. And I would say that right now, more than ever, we're sending a clear message, right, to contractors, to the top percent that workers are tired, they're organizing, and they're willing to step out and take those kinds of risks to take care of themselves and their families, which is what we should have been doing all along.
Elsa, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck here. I know it's getting stressful and I know it's coming down to the wire, but we appreciate you taking some time out during this busy time to join us and explain a little bit more about what's happening.
Anytime, Raheel, and thank you so much for having me.
That was Elsa Flores. You can learn more about SEIU's fight with a link in our show notes. Hey, so summer is almost here. Tell us, what content do you want to hear for the summer months? Send your ideas with the info in our show notes. That will do it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. Hold on. Let's pick that up. Sorry. 3, 2.